Well, hi everybody. I'm Annette, coming to you from Melbourne. I'm just going to give about a 10-minute or so demonstration of Miradi Share for those of you that may not know much about it. I'm assuming most of you don't know a lot about it, so I'm going to start with quite basic introduction. We had another webinar this morning with the folks in the Americas doing similar topics, and Dan Salzer in that webinar did a really great demonstration on how to use Miradi Share. The video recording of that will be up on the community page on miradi.org pretty soon, today or tomorrow. I'd really encourage you to have a look at that, because Dan's done a great job of covering off how to navigate around the system and use different things. So I'm going to try and cover different things, and so between the two recordings, hopefully you get a bit of a flavour. But I'll start just by pointing at the home screen. So if you go into just miradishare.org, this is where you'll land, and it's aiming to give you a pretty quick introduction to the system for folks that don't know. Right now, I'm not logged into anything. I'm just a normal person coming in off the internet, and so this is what you would first see. The home screen's got these three tabs at the top, which try to explain the main ways that Miradi Share can be used, and I'd let you to explore these in detail in your own time, but just starting with the collaborate stories around how Miradi Share can help teams to work together to run their projects, and some of what I'll demonstrate shortly will take you through that. With all of these screens, wherever you see a black I button, if you click on that, a pop-up window comes with a whole lot more information and pictures and descriptions. So if you're interested, you can explore those. And then there's a couple of links to videos which go into a bit more detail about how this collaboration can work. The second story is around using Miradi Share to combine information from separate projects into rolling up of measurements or details to a program level, so where multiple projects are sort of forming up into one program. In Ilka's session a little later, she'll cover off a bit of a story around this, and there's some videos and some more information there for you to explore later. Another part of it, and I think a really key part of Miradi Share, as the name implies, it's about sharing information and learning from each other. As you're all probably aware, we're trying to save the planet here, and if we can help each other out and learn from others about how they're doing stuff, learn about what's working, what's not, then we're all going to do a better job at that. So Miradi Share is all about sharing, learning from each other and sharing information. And for me, this is a pretty key, a key feature of the system and a key benefit that's going to come down the track as more people start using this system. So I'll let you explore all that in your own time if you're interested. But I'll just flip across to another browser, and here I am logged in, so the system knows who I am. I should have mentioned, sorry, back on this regular homepage, I really encourage you to create an account if you haven't already done so. It just opens up a bit more information to you if you want to be exploring the system. So here I'm signed in, but I'm just into a section of the system called the Community Library, and it's got a whole bunch of different libraries in there, but the Community Library is, if you like, the free space where anybody can use it. And so you can put up your own projects here if you're seeing value in these sorts of features. To demonstrate how this worked, I thought I'd just use a little scenario around how you might want to use this kind of information. A key tool is this little filter box that's sitting up the top here. And if we use a scenario and imagine that we've all just been thrown onto a project and we've got to work together to make this project happen. The project we've got is we're trying to protect an area of forest. And right now that forest is being impacted by cattle grazing. So we want to find other projects around the world that are dealing with cattle grazing. If we use this filter box and we use the threat classification scheme, and hopefully you might be familiar with this, but we tick and say we want to know other projects that are dealing with livestock grazing, and we apply that filter. That filter that's being applied, if you're familiar with Miradi and you put threats into Miradi, it has this standard classification system, so you can tick what sort of threats you're dealing with. So this system is now just running through all the Miradi projects and finding the ones that have got that livestock threat ticked. And hopefully you can see that it's found 23 of the 200 projects that are available to me right now that are dealing with livestock grazing. So that's the threat we're dealing with. We've already decided that we think we need to find a way to help the local people have a better livelihood that's using their cattle but not damaging the forest. So we're looking at ways of coming up with strategies that help with livelihoods or find some sort of economic incentives. So we'll apply that filter to our list of projects. The system will run away and think about it. And it's come back and now saying, well, there's 7 projects in this system at the moment that are dealing with the threat of livestock, and they're looking at economic incentives or livelihood incentives as a way to try and tackle that. If just randomly we choose to look at this Tuvalu project, and this is a web browser application, so if you right click you can open multiple windows, and I'll pick this project as well, and we'll go and have a bit of a closer look at 2 projects. The Tuvalu project, here's the project description, and so this is just the description out of their Miradi file where they're describing what project they're wanting to do. And if we think, well, that sounds all interesting, let's explore a bit more, you'll see there's not a whole lot more information here, but what we can do is contact the team. So we could just in this box put a little message, say, sounds like your project might be able to help us, can we talk, or could you share us your Miradi file or something like that. Send that email and the system will send off an email to that the members of that project team, and then maybe we get a response and maybe we start a conversation and learn what they're doing. The other project we're looking at is this Driftless. Their project description doesn't really tell us very much, so don't know whether that's helpful. But going into Explore, and we can start to see some of the details. In fact, we can see all of their details. We can see their diagrams. If we just dial this up, here's their results chains. We can go in and have a closer look at what they're doing, and seeing that they've got really quite well populated results chains, indicators, objectives, a whole bunch of things in there. And we could then go on and start exploring all this information. And a lot of this is what you would see if you had the file down in Miradi. In fact, we can download the file if we want to, or we can explore a whole lot of information online. The reason those 2 projects are a bit different is because of the way that the information is being shared. So here you can see that Driftless project is being shared publicly, which means they're happy to share their information around. The Tuvalu project is still very early in its development, and so its access is just restricted to the team. So there's different ways of sharing different amounts of project information, but any degree of sharing, in my mind, can help us all learn from each other and do a better job of what we're doing. So that filtering box is a great way to narrow down all the projects in the system. The only trick is you have to remember to clear your filters before you move on, because they stay there until you take them off, basically. If you're wanting to add your own projects, then there's ways to create a project, just clicking on the create button. That then takes you through to some pretty clear instructions around how you could upload your own project into this community library. I'm finding lots of people are doing that, talking to lots of teams, mainly because it means they've got a backup. They know where their master copy of the project is. The system backs it up. It's keeping version control. It's helping them to manage their project that way. So there's good reason to use this community library, even if you don't have a bigger program to be using. I'll just flip across to our Bush Heritage program, where I've got a few more access rights, and show you a bit more detail as it ticks away. So this is our homepage. We'll go into this in a bit more detail in a later conversation, but I'll just open up some of our projects here. This is just looking at a subset of all of our projects, the ones that are active in the West region. Our network's a bit slow because we're running a whole bunch of things across it right now. And I'll just go and have a look into this, one of these projects that we're running. It's got a fair bit of information about it. So the Explore button is pretty much the same as what we're looking at for those publicly available projects. But now that I'm in my own home program, there's a whole bunch of editing options that turn up. There's 2 ways to edit right now. A lot of the editing you still need to do in Miradi Desktop. And so the way we do that is we check it out. We take it out of the library, take it down to Miradi Desktop and work on it from there. There's videos in the help area that show you how to do that. And this timeline feature starts tracking how all of that activity is going on. It'll load up in just a minute. And so for this project, you can see what's been happening over time in Miradi Share and in Miradi. And it's tracking different version numbers, and it's tracking the commentary from the team as they're doing this work. And each time a person acts on this project, then there's an email gets sent off to the other members in the project team. So the team is keeping in touch with each other, even though they're scattered all around the country. They can see what's going on, and this timeline is tracking that information. And it's also keeping versions. So if we make a mess of something, which we do occasionally, we can go back to an earlier version and copy out some data that we might have lost and bring it back in. So version control and backup and all that is really quite critical. But now there's a whole bunch of editing capabilities directly into Miradi Share. So a really simple one, if I just look at all the factor information, and a factor is any piece of data in Miradi. So a goal, a strategy, an activity. If I just filter this list for our goals, then here's all the goals that we've got in this project. We can see all the information. I can go straight in here and edit it here rather than taking it down to Miradi. I can copy this table out and paste it into a document if I need to report on something. So a whole lot of information now is available up in Miradi Share online, and it's quite a bit easier to get at. There's also these other editing capabilities coming online all the time. So that's a really great for us. It makes it easier to manage the projects. And just in terms of managing projects, this manage button shows us who's got access to the project. There's different access levels depending on what the role people have within the team. And then this is where the project manager can decide how much information do they want to share publicly. So we looked earlier and we saw that that project was just accessible to the team. This one's accessible publicly. That's a call that each project manager can make as they want to. So that's broadly around managing an individual project. If I go back to our homepage, there's a whole bunch of features also around managing the actual program. And I won't go into these in detail, and happy to talk to anyone offline if you're struggling with or wanting to learn more about how to manage a whole program. But there's a bunch of things around managing access and which people have access to your program. Things like importing bulk data, bulk measures into projects, exporting a whole heap of data, and some features around data privacy. So while we're happy to make a lot of our projects public wherever we can, there's some fields that we can protect away, so that things like financial information, for example, we can flag those as being private fields, which means we can share the project publicly but keep some confidentiality around that kind of data. Probably just about out of time, I think. It's a quick run through what most of the features are. Again, I mentioned that encourage you to look at Dan's video, because he gives you much more about the mechanics, about how to access screens and manage them. The help button has some videos that describe how to use some of these features. And our community page on miradi.org has the video recordings from the webinars and also a self-guided tutorial that hopefully you might want to use. It's just a PDF where you can download, and it steps you through, do this, do that. And as you all know, learning technology, the best way to do that is to actually do it yourself. So I'd encourage you to maybe play with that self-guided tutorial sometime if you want to learn more about how to use the system. But happy to take any questions. Ilka, are there any in the Q&A box, or is anyone?
Not yet. Not yet. So just a quick reminder, if you would like to ask a question to Annette, please type in your question in the Q&A using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen.
And again, we're pretty limited for time here, but if any of you are wanting to dig into more detail about any of this, feel free to get in touch. Happy to try and help you. We've learned a lot just by getting in and doing it, basically, and learning how to do it and making it up as we go. So happy to share.